Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this thematic session number 4 on gender, intersectionality, and sanitation work. Before I start talking at all, just know there is some interpretation available in French. Sally will, kindly share you how to access it. So it will go from English to French and from French to English, because we have speakers in both languages today. Feel free to shout out or send us in the chat if something is not working, and we'll try to help you out the best we can. My name is Alex. I am part of the organization team of this forum, and I've just finished a PhD on the regulation of emceeing and transport services in Africa. And today I'm seconded by Nelly Leblanc, who I'm gonna let introduce herself.
Thank you, Alex. Hello, everybody. I'm Nelly. I'm a postdoctoral researcher, part of a project called Overdue, tackling the sanitation taboo across urban Africa.
Des questions liées à la salubrité et l'assainissement en Afrique. Je suis ravi de me compter parmi vous aujourd'hui.
We have 3 presentations. We will be looking at the intersectional dimension of sanitation work. So gender, caste, class, race, age. We will look particularly at the challenges for women sanitation workers in India, Ivory Coast, Madagascar, Senegal, and see how their visibility or invisibility is acting in their favor or probably not in their favor, and how projects are looking into that. We have 2 pre-recorded presentations in French, and then we'll have 1 live presentation in English, and then we'll have a lot of time for discussions. So pop your questions in the chat, and we have the Q&A or the chat on Zoom, and I know there's also a chat on Wova, so we'll try to keep an eye on everything and pass on your questions to the presenters after the presentation. So I think we can start immediately with the first pre-recorded presentation from Angèle Coué and Janine Bola Ramaro Côte, and I really apologize if I mess up your names, who are going to talk to us about sanitation as a livelihood for women in Abidjan and Antananarivo.
Bonjour, je suis Angèle Coué de l'ONG GEPALEF, Genre, Parité et Leadership Féminin, qui est une ONG féministe basée en Côte d'Ivoire. Nous travaillons en ce moment sur la question de l'assainissement, notamment l'accès des femmes aux toilettes, mais aussi le travail des femmes dans le secteur. Nous travaillons sur cette thématique Lenta de Madagascar. Et là, nous sommes interpellés par la situation des femmes travailleuses dans l'assainissement. D'abord, le manque d'accès aux emplois bien rémunérés, mais aussi les conditions dans lesquelles celles qui travaillent dans l'assainissement le font. Aussi, le niveau de rémunération, etc., sont problématiques pour les femmes. Nous avons essayé aussi de réfléchir avec certaines communes partenaires de notre organisation sur la façon dont on peut impliquer les femmes dans le travail de gestion des toilettes publiques pour leur permettre d'abord d'avoir du revenu, mais aussi de tenir compte des besoins et des besoins des femmes dans ce qui est usage au niveau des toilettes. Il y a ce qu'on essaie de dire des femmes, quelles sont des femmes qui doivent rester d'abord dans les ménages. Il y a le fait aussi qu'on pense que le travail de l'assainissement est un travail salissant pour les femmes, alors qu'en réalité, ce travail est bien fait par les femmes dans les cours, et là, ce travail n'est pas rémunéré. Quand elles le font dans les familles à domicile, ce n'est pas rémunéré, c'est elles qui font les vidanges, avec très peu de moyens de protection, mais l'argument en tout cas qui est précis des métiers rémunérés dans l'assainissement, c'est que ce sont des métiers salissement pas trop bien pour les femmes. Il y a une mauvaise foi, mais aussi il y a le manque d'information au niveau des femmes qui ne sont pas au courant, informées sur les opportunités dans le secteur de l'assainissement. Autre chose aussi, pour créer une entreprise dans l'assainissement, dans nos pays, il faut pouvoir avoir un minimum de moyens financiers que les femmes n'ont pas.
Et c'est ce qu'on a voulu montrer également à travers ce film. Le titre même, c'est le travail des femmes dans le secteur formel de l'assainissement, reflet des stéréotypes de genre. On a essayé d'avoir différents métiers de femmes sur 3 niveaux. Des femmes qui travaillent au niveau de la commune urbaine d'Antananarive, qui sont des bureaucrates au niveau de la commune urbaine d'Antananarive. On a également essayé d'avoir, comme Véronique par exemple, c'est une chef d'entreprise. Et pour le niveau micro, c'est-à-dire sur le terrain, on a interrogé des femmes de ménage dans les lycées publics et surtout dans les structures communautaires de nettoyage, d'hygiène et d'assainissement. Bon, c'est encore les hommes qui sont majoritaires, mais maintenant il y a beaucoup de femmes qui sont maintenant présidentes de fourtanes des quartiers, assemblage de quartiers. Donc c'est vraiment le niveau administratif au niveau terrain. Et c'est même une femme présidente de Fourtin qui a la bonne pratique qui a été présentée dans ce film. C'est la seule structure, une des seules structures communautaires qui ont commencé à faire le recyclage d'ordures et qui ont pu également loger quelques-unes de leurs employés. Mais c'est vrai aussi qu'il y a encore vraiment beaucoup de stéréotypes dans ce domaine, puisque, comme Véronique l'a dit dans le film, il y a plus de femmes présidentes d'associations que de femmes chefs d'entreprise dans le milieu de l'assainissement. Il faudrait rechercher s'il y a, par exemple, des matériels à acquérir pour que les femmes puissent, par exemple, entrer dans le travail de vidangeur. Il va falloir aussi penser à comment aider les femmes chefs d'entreprise, surtout au début, parce que des fois, on a peut-être mentionné ces projets pour qu'il n'y ait pas ce genre de problème, comme quoi elles ont dû se retirer parce qu'il y avait plus de pertes que de gains. Les stéréotypes ont encore la future, comme quoi, et c'est nous-mêmes les femmes qui pensent que c'est inné, c'est biologique pour nous de faire du nettoyage, de s'occuper de l'hygiène et de l'assainissement. Et c'est ce qu'on a voulu montrer également à travers ce film.
Thank you very much, Sally. Thank you to Angèle and Janine for sharing this video with us and this pre-recorded presentation. We will keep the questions for the end of the 3 presentations, so we'll move straight to the next one, which is bringing us to Senegal. So it's a presentation from Ndiaye Penda Diouf on women's invisible work in the sanitation sector in Saint-Louis in Senegal.
Bonjour, je suis Angèle Coué de l'ONG GEPALEF.
Apologies, that's the wrong video. One moment.
No problem. And I see that Ndiaye Penda is not yet with us, but hopefully she will join us while we look at these presentations.
Nearly there. Okay, should be coming up.
That's all right.
le constat général, visible, c'est que ce sont les hommes qui travaillent dans le secteur de l'assainissement. Parce qu'on met surtout en avant les métiers rémunérés, les métiers valorisés, tels que les éboueurs, les charretiers, les ingénieurs, etc., etc. Or, dans les maisons que commence le travail de l'assainissement. Parce que c'est à partir des maisons qu'on gère les toilettes et les excréments. C'est à partir des maisons qu'on gère les eaux usées. En réalité, les femmes abattent beaucoup de travail d'assainissement dans les maisons et aussi dans les quartiers. Et elles subissent aussi beaucoup de conséquences, de problèmes liés à l'assainissement. Bon, moi, c'est Ndeye Penda Diouf. Je suis conseillère municipale, présidente de la commission entrepreneuriat féminin et microfinance. J'ai été inspirée de créer un observatoire genre et développement au niveau de notre municipalité. Nous avons interviewé des femmes et on s'est rendu compte que du matin au soir, les femmes, en fait, travaillent dans l'assainissement. En fait, c'est un travail qu'ils font silencieusement, qu'ils acceptent de faire comme étant leur devoir. Mais elles le font dans des conditions extrêmement précaires, extrêmement difficiles. Et ça a des répercussions sur leur mental. Ils n'ont pas le temps de même aller faire du travail rémunéré. C'est problématique pour elles parfois de gérer tout ça. Sur le plan mental, sur le plan matériel, sur le plan physique, sur le plan financier, c'est vraiment dur pour les femmes. Des maisons où c'est la maman qui paye pour l'évacuation de ces eaux, si elle n'a pas une fille qui peut l'aider, ou bien c'est la jeune fille qui porte le seau sur la tête qui va déverser. L'État ne fait pas attention à tous les problèmes que cela peut soulever dans une société, notamment les problèmes de santé, les problèmes d'hygiène, les problèmes de propriété. Bon, parce que quand on sort l'eau usée de sa maison, il faut bien le mettre quelque part. Et ici, à Saint-Louis, en général, on jette les eaux usées dans le fleuve, ou bien alors on creuse devant sa maison pour enfouir l'eau usée. Et ce sont les baigneurs dans le fleuve, notamment les enfants, qui en pâtissent, qui attrapent des maladies telles que des diarrhées, des bilharzioses, etc. Ou bien quand on creuse aussi, on enfouit qu'est-ce qui reste comme élément dangereux dans ce sable asséché, on ne sait pas et personne ne s'en soucie. Toutes les femmes du quartier se sont organisées. À chaque fois que le canal est bouché, ils sortent. Ils invitent les garçons là qui sont dans les ASC pour qu'ils les appuient à nettoyer le canal. Parce que s'ils ne le font pas, ce sont leurs filles qui portent les choses sur la tête pour aller les déverser au fleuve. Après toutes ces observations, certes, il y a les services d'assainissement qui ont en charge de régler tous ces problèmes d'assainissement, parce que poser des infrastructures d'assainissement, c'est une chose, mais l'entretien, c'est autre chose et c'est au quotidien. Il serait bien d'abord au niveau étatique qu'ils s'investissent dans la recherche pour faire une analyse comparative coût assainissement et coût sanitaire. Deuxièmement, les autorités gagneraient mieux en mettant en place des systèmes de prévention et de formation, de sensibilisation et d'information. C'est-à-dire informer les populations sur l'importance des toilettes dans une maison, c'est nécessaire. Informer les populations sur les inconvénients aussi des toilettes non entretenues et vraiment les inciter à investir beaucoup plus dans les toilettes pour avoir des toilettes, disons, normées. Bien sûr, chez les personnes nanties, il n'y a pas de problème. Mais chez les moins nantis, c'est problématique. Et là, il faut trouver des solutions. Parce qu'actuellement, toutes les solutions sont imaginées par les populations. L'État est complètement absent.
Thank you very much, Sally. Thank you, Panda. Yeah, very interesting video and presentation. It seems that we're finding a way slowly to get Panda Duke with us. So hopefully by the time we're finished with the presentation, we'll have her with us as well. Now we're going to move away from Africa and change continent and switch to English. So if you need the translation in French, again, use the interpretation. Abhilasha Nagaranjan, I'm terribly sorry about the names, will be talking to us today about women sanitation workers, challenges and way forward. And please let me know how to pronounce your name properly.
Yeah, it's Abhilasha Nagarajan. Yeah, so can I begin?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just going to be a talk. I do not have a presentation, so if I'm going fast, please let me know. Okay, so in sanitation as well as in other development sectors, women have been embraced as beneficiaries and have been the center of sanitation programming. However, women do exist in all parts.
Les femmes sont dans toute la chaîne d'assainissement.
Many of these women in sanitation are sanitation workers. So good day to all. This is Abhilasha Nagarajan representing the Tamil Nadu Urban Sanitation Support Program, or the TNUSSP from IIHS, here to speak about the challenges and way forward for women sanitation workers based on our work and learnings from Tamil Nadu, which is a southern state in India. So in the sanitation sector, there are many kinds of workers we don't often recognize, including desludging operators, plant operators, masons, toilet cleaners, sewer cleaners, railway track cleaners, solid waste workers, rack pickers, to name a few. They can also be categorized by their work arrangements. That is, those working on the urban local body payroll, or those who are contracted by the urban local body, or those who are privately employed. For instance, sanitation workers who are employed by desludging truck operators, and also independent workers. So the informal workers are mostly daily wage earners and or in contractual positions. So in case of sanitation workers, there is a trend to move more towards contracting as opposed to being on the payroll. However, there is limited evidence that as the work gets more and more informal, more women are involved. For instance, in Trichy, which is a million-sized city in Tamil Nadu, 60% of the women sanitation workers are in informal pursuits. They face a lack of social protection. Similarly, toilet cleaners, who are poorly paid daily wage earners, are predominantly women. Whereas desludging operations are dominated by men, with a lesser scope for participation of women. To give you an idea, only 5 out of 111 desludging operators in Trichy are women. However, in the relatively formalized world of waste treatment plants, we do see that most positions from plant workers to engineers are occupied by men. In solid waste management, where we see men undertake mechanized work, women are mostly engaged in collection and sorting, and they're often reporting to male supervisors. So to build evidence around women in sanitation across the full cycle, we have conducted a study on gender and social inclusion across the chain. We've also held a series of focus group discussions with sanitation workers, and also conducted a study on issues faced by women at workplace. Just to name a few key findings, it includes the fact that there is a skewed workload between male and female sanitation workers, which is further impacted by the layer of caste. Women are often paid lesser and do not usually move into higher paying positions and roles. For instance, women's engagement in the construction of containment structures is limited to being helpers to male masons. Often self-help groups are held out as a solution, but they're limited to certain parts of the chain. In Tamil Nadu, we find self-help groups managing community toilets and public toilets, or working in micro-composting yards or resource recovery parks. In Trichy, we have the sanitation, hygiene and education, or the SHE teams, who manage 150 out of the 400 community toilets in the city. However, we do see that these women groups rarely have the capital or the capacity, say for instance, to buy a truck or desludging equipment. And we do not find any women groups or women engineers coming together to take up contracts or to manage these or construct these FSTPs. It is also noted that there is no sex desegregated toilets at treatment plants or construction sites, and the problem worsens if it is located remotely. So women often face health issues and discomfort, especially women workers. Also, the equipments, tools, and vehicles.
Et les équipements, les outils, tout ça sont souvent.
Women sanitation workers face specific problems while using them. So we are exploring and learning through some key initiatives for women in sanitation with a focus on sanitation worker. Our team is working with SHE teams in Trichy to improve their managerial skills. And in collaboration with the city corporation and the local NGOs, we have also demonstrated a gender-friendly toilet design in the city. We've been exploring entrepreneurial support for the 5 women DSOs identified for the upliftment of their business portfolio, involving women in safety study, first aid training, and also involving them in affordable desludging models for the urban poor. So far, about 260 plus women-headed families in sanitation worker settlements have gained access to relevant social security schemes, and 588 and counting informal sanitation workers have been federated into 57 self-help groups under the National Urban Livelihood Mission. So just some concluding recommendations. So for enabling more such women professionals, it is imperative to improve sanitation facilities at workplace with gender sensitivity and also a focus on menstrual health management. We must identify and strengthen women workers and professionals across the chain, including women-led enterprises. To empower these professionals, it is important to improve their social security, including linking them to relevant schemes, creating awareness, and also have grievance redressal mechanisms, especially for workplace harassment. Last but not the least, to celebrate these women professionals, TNUSSP runs an annual digital campaign called Women in Sanitation, aligned to the International Women's Day. It is to the forefront, missing women professionals in the sanitation sector, highlighting the challenges they face through videos and films. Do write to us to be a part of the campaign. I'm sure there are great stories from across the room. And lastly, I'd like to thank Sally and all the other organizers for giving me this opportunity to present at this very important forum. We do have some interesting resources. I will paste the link on the chat box, and I'm happy to take any questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhilasha. Really interesting. And yes, please share your resources. There's also some resources from the Overdue project on the page of this session, so we can add your resources there as well, or just add them in the chat as you think is best. I see there's some questions starting to pop in. There's one common theme I've seen in all your presentations is this idea, and I mean, we knew it, but I'm really happy that you all found it as well, is that women are already there, they're already everywhere, but they're invisible because most of the time they're either working very, very low paid or low.
Elles sont très, très mal payées. Ou...
Volunteers, basically. They're not paid for it, at least. And yes, it's fascinating to see that everywhere across Africa, India, we have similar issues. And I think this discussion is going to be really interesting. Nelly, do you have some questions from presenters coming up?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you all for your presentations. It was very rich and indeed many echoes across the different presentations on the visibility, the invisibility, the lack of access to resources to grow in the sector. We have a question from Claudie Vouhet to Abhilasha, but maybe others wants to take it on too, about gender neutral tools. Abhilasha, you were mentioning gender neutral tools or gender adapted technology. What's your position on gender adapted technologies, especially in connections to some stereotypes, such as men have the strengths to do some work that women don't in that sector?
Yeah. So these are some of our learnings from the field side, that usually working with our women desludging operators, that yes, stereotypes do exist, but as a matter of fact, it could be for men or women that the tools currently in use for the desludging is extremely heavy. The hose pipes, as well as the heavy vehicle which they drive, and also the valves and all of that, it's extremely difficult to operate. And also some of the personal protective equipment, such as the gloves and the other things used, it's all one size fits all kind of approach. So more than it being for men or women, they have to be more ergonomic in the sense that it should be available in various sizes, and also we must relook at the the weight, and actually can there be a more easy to use equipment for these processes. So I think that is very important, and we are also exploring on those lines. I hope that clarifies the question.
Yes, thank you. We also have a question from Babul Bala, I hope I said that name correctly, asking if it would be possible to explain more the social security scheme and self-help groups. And I think we can also extend that question, Abhilash, I'm sure you have a lot to say, but we could also extend that question to the team in Madagascar, which were mentioning these projects where they had been constructing housing for sanitation workers. And it's not detailed here, but it's detailed on the film that you can see. There's also some support for medical costs for sanitation workers. So Abhilasha, if you want to tell us more about these schemes and groups, and then the Madagascar team, if you want to come in to share your experience too, that would be wonderful.
Okay, can I go first, or will the Madagascar team go first?
Go, Abhilasha.
Okay. Okay, so basically when we were speaking to the sanitation workers and the other women in specific who we were working with, we also found that there are a lot of schemes available for them to, for instance, widow pensions, old age pensions, other insurances, which they can avail, but they did not have the means or the awareness to access these schemes. It could be also simply that all of this has gone digital now here. It could be the fact that they do not have access to, or enough awareness to access these digital tools. I mean, that's one of the limitations. Or it could be that it was very document intensive process, or they could be informal sanitation workers who do not have any proof that they are actually sanitation workers. So we work with local NGOs and also the sanitation workers to reach out to various departments to map these schemes available at the state level and as well as the central level, and figure out the processes to apply to these schemes. We just acted as enablers to link the sanitation workers to these schemes. I think that is very important, because one, they do not know the benefits they have, being the vulnerable group they are. So there we acted as the enablers. So that is about the schemes. We also created awareness about these schemes among the youth in their communities, so that going ahead, they can guide their community to kind of apply and also follow up on these schemes, which is available for them. As far as the self-help groups are concerned, they could be sanitation worker-based self-help groups, or normal self-help groups of mostly women, but we do have male and also transgender self-help groups are coming up in our cities. So there is also something called the National Urban Livelihood Program launched by the Government of India. So under this, we also form these self-help groups and link them to employment opportunities, to access tenders with respect to sanitation facilities. And we see a lot of self-help groups managing community toilets in Trichy, to give an example. So more about this is also there in the links I've pasted. I hope they will be useful.
Thank you, Abhilasha. Janine, do you want to answer that question as well?
Oui. Par rapport à, au mécanisme.
Regarding the social security scheme for the sanitation workers, there is a group, a community group in Tananarive, and I think it's the only one existing now that was able to offer social security for its workers. It's benefiting from they benefit from health insurance for them themselves and their family, because there's a lot of couples who are not officially married, but when they are living together, the group registered to a practitioner, to a doctor, and most of them they were homeless before that, and the group enabled them to have housing. It's not really decent housing. In the beginning, it was only housing built in wood, but later on, we worked with an international NGO that helped them to recycle wastes and to make fertilizers with it. And now they've started to build a house in a solid house, bricks.
Thank you. I have another question regarding the presentation, and I think that question can also be asked to Penda at the same time. You interviewed women who work at different levels in the sanitation sector, so the municipality, businesswomen, field workers. Is there any commonalities in the challenges and opportunities they have?
Janine, Mina, c'était une question pour vous. Est-ce que vous avez entendu la... Oui. Je vous le... Allez-y, Janine, Mina, si vous voulez activer votre micro.
En fait, c'est surtout le problème de stéréotype de genre qui est dominant. Pourquoi est-ce que les femmes n'ont pas accès aux outils? Parce que, comme on avait dit tout à l'heure, que les outils sont supposés neutres, par exemple. Mais neutre, ça voulait dire que les tenues de travail étaient
work uniforms were designed for men, so the women couldn't wear those uniforms, those gears. They couldn't wear the boots for 42 size. The women had only 37 size for their shoes, and then also the stereotypes at the level of the community. Women are in the office because they're supposed not to have the capacity to go in the field. So they are secretaries, they take care of reception, communication, and everything that is supposed to be designed for women. So the men are in the field who have the strength, but they're never considered appropriate tools so that women can also be in the field. So I want to talk about it also now. When we talk about giving access to women to informal work, what happens is that we want to give them works for 8, 9, 10 hours per day, and not taking into account the other activities they have to handle at home. So the reproductive activities and the children health, school, they still have to do it. that means that it's not only about giving the access to formal activities. You also have to consider the redistribution, the sharing of the workload in all sectors, in all levels, and whatever the category, for the youth, for the much younger people, the older person. They have different workloads, have different tasks to accomplish. Because when you are young, you think that young girls will do this, but young boys won't do that. And the tasks are always socially reproductive. As the gender inequality is repeated. It's very clear. No problem. Angèle, in Ivory Coast, in Côte d'Ivoire, did you observe the same dynamics? Can you hear us, Angèle?
Et est-ce que Penda Diouf est avec nous?
Alors, Penda, toujours pas. Peut-être le temps que Angèle rallume son micro. Il y a plusieurs questions déjà des félicitations qui disent que c'est très clair et qui remercient pour l'équipe de Madagascar pour avoir bien articulé cette question des charges productives et reproductives qui incombent aux femmes et comment ça peut générer des contraintes pour leur ascension dans le secteur formel. Il y a aussi beaucoup de questions sur la dimension intersectionnelle où vous avez toutes bien montré l'interaction des questions de genre, des questions d'âge, des questions de revenus, donc de classe. Qu'en est-il aussi des questions de caste? Je pense que c'est notamment pour Abhilasha. Et des questions éventuellement donc de disability, donc de handicap dans le secteur de l'assainissement. Est-ce que c'est des choses que vous avez également qui rentrent dans le cadre de vos travaux? Et alors, dans l'ordre que vous voulez, Abhilasha, Janine, je ne sais pas qui a...
Sorry, the interpretation was a little bit slow. So is it about the question posted by Claudie on caste and disability?
Yes, we have the question from Claudie and also from Madeleine, who congratulated you for your presentation and raised the same question about caste.
Okay, that question was in French because I'm not able to. Okay, anyway. So yes, definitely at the intersectionality, we do have age, disability, caste, and also going beyond the binary definition of gender, we do have transgender persons who we work with at Tucci. So caste is kind of a major thing with respect, especially sanitation workers. And we often do see them, for people belonging to particular castes are involved in sanitation work, which is mostly the case across India. It's not specific to just Tamil Nadu. However, handling that is a slightly more sensitive issue. And we are looking to empower them through, especially the youth from the sanitation workers community with alternative livelihoods and providing them entrepreneurial support and vocational training to pull them out of some of these jobs which might be stereotyped. And we are also parallelly working to raise the profile of the sanitation workers themselves to break the stereotypes around these jobs in particular. It is a long-run process, and though we are taking efforts towards that, we need to see the effects of our interventions. But clearly, we have identified these intersectionalities, and we are working towards addressing them. With respect to age and access to toilets, we are working with the city corporation to establish gender-friendly toilets. I think we have also had a demonstration on making it age and disabled friendly toilets. That is one example I can quickly quote. I hope that clarifies.
Yes, thank you very much. Janine, Mina, I think you might want to jump in.
S'il vous plaît, en fait, dans le film que nous avons, on n'avait pas parlé d'intersectionnalité.
We did not talk about intersectionality, but it is a real problem in Madagascar. Now, I wouldn't talk about the caste system, but there are regional differences in terms of prevailing taboos relating to sanitation. And often it would be unusual to see a water closet in a home. And so even when you leave the village and you get to the city, you still find it quite difficult to accept that you can't leave dirt at home. In Antananarivo, for instance, there are a number of taboos. And when we talk about intersectionality too, we know full well that men and women have different needs and interests as they relate to the use of a toilet. For instance, we could have a disability access routes to a toilet, but the use of it may not be tailor-made. And so there are different needs, especially in relation to people with disability, but we need to delve deeper and then do specific studies on the various categories of persons in order to come up with bespoke answers, not to remain too general. I thank you. Thank you very much, Angèle.
Tant les stéréotypes que les femmes peuvent rencontrer et les tabous tout au long de la chaîne de l'assainissement que ces questions d'intersectionnalité à partir de vos travaux en Côte d'Ivoire. Bon, je ne suis pas sûre qu'on ait Angèle encore avec nous. N'hésitez pas à nous écrire dans le chat si vous avez un problème avec le son, Angèle. Entre-temps, il y a une question qui est revenue plusieurs fois. Penda conclut son film avec le rôle des populations qui finalement sont laissées à elles-mêmes pour innover et faire l'assainissement.
Who are left to themselves to handle sanitation. We have the issue of women entrepreneurs who have to absorb the financial cost in the sector. And the question is for the city council and the government, what role do they have? What does it
mentionner les femmes dans le secteur de l'assainissement et comment vous vous positionnez dans vos activités d'activistes, de chercheurs par rapport à ces autorités publiques? Alors, Abhilasha, peut-être le temps de la traduction.
Yeah, so with respect to our working with the government or the urban local bodies, the first step we want to do is that sensitize them to recognize that women are beyond users. There are women professionals, service providers along the sanitation chain, and to take the work an important contribution to them, that women are already in these various roles in the sanitation chain. So creating that recognition and awareness has been an important step. with the urban local bodies. And we are also trying to get these women groups formally linked inside in the sanitation chain. That is the example which I mentioned about the self-help groups, which we are enabling to federate under the National Urban Livelihood Mission. We also have some ideas in mind, such as reservations for women in treatment facilities, and promoting more and more women if they are interested as desludging business owners. All this cannot happen independent of the support from the urban local bodies as well as the state. So definitely the first step is to sensitize the government officers on gender sanitation and its linkages, and also bring to the fore and expand their recognition of women as professionals. We are trying to do this both at the urban local body as well as the state level. We just started work around this because we also find that though we have some demonstrations in the cities, taking these demonstrations to scale at the state level is challenging. So we are progressing towards that. So that's my quick response.
Thank you, Abhilasha. Janine, do you want to answer that same question?
Ok, par rapport au rôle que peuvent avoir les municipalités. Oui, les municipalités ont vraiment un rôle très important puisque, par exemple, dans notre
Very important. For instance, in our film, you saw that in Antananarivo, in the popular areas or suburbs, we have women, sometimes single mothers, are those that we predominantly see working in the community hygiene association. And so the government involvement would provide a boon to the activities of these women, and it will improve their lives and the lives of their children. The local government also has a role, and as we were just saying, a lot of gender stereotypes remain, but we shall be working to ensure parity. Here in Antananarivo, we have women that are chairs or presidents of the sanitation workers associations, but women entrepreneurs are very, very rare in this sector. But we identified during our activities one of the women who is a CEO in the sanitation sector, and she came up to a wall when she participated in one of the projects organized in Antananarivo. After 4 years of managing the lavatory, she was forced to stop working. So the state, the city council, or the local government authority has a role to provide subsidies to show up the work of women entrepreneurs, to encourage them.
Il y avait une intervention de Claudie Vouet qui parlait justement des urinoirs mobiles, dont je pense que vous avez déjà répondu à cette question. Et la deuxième question était pourquoi la municipalité ne subventionne pas cela au lieu de le donner directement au secteur privé, sans appui à la mise en œuvre. Je pense que ça revient sur ce que vous expliquez sur le projet, mais si vous voulez en dire un peu plus sur ce sujet particulier.
Je pense que nous pensons que la municipalité a plusieurs priorités. Ce n'est pas seulement la...
I think that the local government authority has so many priorities. Sanitation is not the only problem. There are issues regarding road safety and security. And so I do not think that sanitation has been put on the back burner per se, but the local government authority already had something in mind. And as part of that, they came up with the municipality sanitation code, which first of all seeks to raise awareness amongst the general population to be civically responsible and to avoid creating dirt in the city. Not necessarily to clean up, but to avoid creating dirt. That is the key message being sent out by the municipal authority. We have held some awareness raising sessions, organized training sessions, but we need to go back to the field to ensure that things are being done right and that people are mindful of cleanliness, and then to assess what the people's attitude is. And so, yes, we are working more on avoiding making dirt than just cleaning up. We are told that Angèle is back. Angèle, you have a lot of questions to answer. Can you hear us? And are you able to speak up? Apparently not. Looks like we've lost Angèle again.
In the meantime, maybe Abhilasha, since we were talking about contracting, you mentioned that the formal jobs are more taken by men and the informal jobs more by women. Is there a specific barrier to getting a contract from the government that women are facing?
As of now, there are no contractual clauses which actually or reservations. Just 1 minute, the interpretation is echoing. Okay. As of now, there are no specific reservations in jobs to the extent of, say, 33% should be women, or even in the contracts awarded to management of waste treatment facilities, so that, you know, a percentage of this should be given to women groups or anything of that kind yet. That is also another thing which we are working towards. However, we do see some good examples. For instance, the city engineer in Trichy is a woman. We do see some of the assistant engineers as women, and we do see the self-help groups and private entrepreneurs who are upcoming as women. However, they definitely do need that institutional support and the kind of reservations and the contractual specifications for them to have that reservation that will definitely enable them to be in more formal roles across the chain.
Thank you.
So we have no more questions in the chat. So please, if you have more questions, do write them down. In the meantime, I had one echoing the keynote introduction yesterday from Bezwada Wilson, and the difficult issue of documenting, photographing, filming degrading conditions or potentially undignified work conditions. He was wanting all of us to really think on how we get these images and how we use them. And I was wondering if you, since you're all documenting the role of women in the sanitation sector and the constraints they're facing, what are the good practices that you've evolved to give a voice, to give visibility, to amplify the voice of women, and to support maybe advocacy or change? What are the insights that you could share with us?
Can I answer that, or is there someone else to? Okay. Nelly, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think that is that to that cause, we have been trying to change the narrative around sanitation workers and also women in sanitation. So they might be few in number and they might be invisible, but to recognize the contribution and to pitch them as role models and bring out their inspiring stories. As I mentioned before, we have been running a series called Women in Sanitation. So far, we have brought out more than 20 clips of from their own voices, their own perspectives on the challenges they have overcome to be where they are. And most of these are unique women professionals, first generation women professionals in sanitation. And I think that has been a very inspirational lineup for us. And we have also seen that as we put them out on social media, we have had inputs for the campaign from other parts of the world. It is really endearing to see that there are similar stories across the globe. And also, it is important to amplify these voices to change the narrative around sanitation workers, to give it a more inspiring tweak, I would say. So yeah, that is one initiative which we are trying to do. And everyone here is welcome to write to us and share your contributions, as it is very important to pitch the stories of these champions in that narrative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Janine, Mina, do you want to share your...
Oui, par rapport aux bonnes pratiques qui mériteraient vraiment d'être mises à l'échelle, je crois que nous en avons deux. Il y a d'abord le projet du urinoir mobile, qu'on appelle aussi Dame Pipi, puisque ce sont des femmes qui ont été appuyées par une ONG locale parce que leurs enfants étaient malnutris, ou bien qu'elles étaient des femmes battues au niveau de leur foyer. Et l'ONG en question a voulu aider ces femmes à s'émanciper sur le plan économique notamment. Donc, ils ont mis en place ce projet d'urinoir mobile avec la commune urbaine d'Antananarivo. Et par exemple, une femme Dame Pipi qu'on a approchée lors de cette recherche, elle a dit que ça a vraiment changé sa vie, que ça va mieux entre elle et son conjoint actuellement puisqu'il n'y a plus de problème d'argent, et que surtout, elle arrive à scolariser ses enfants et que ses enfants mangent désormais à leur faim, ce qui n'était pas du tout le cas auparavant. Donc, ça montre encore l'importance que la municipalité devrait donner à ce genre de projet, à les subventionner, parce que ça change vraiment la vie de beaucoup de femmes. Et il y a aussi cette association communautaire située dans un quartier de la ville. Je crois que c'est la seule association, même, c'est une association pilote. Et elle est vraiment, il y a plusieurs associations communautaires dans les quartiers, mais dans ce quartier, c'est vraiment très avancé. Comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, c'est qu'il y a déjà une couverture sanitaire pour les employés. Les femmes ont par exemple, les familles, ils ont pu avoir des poules, alors qu'ils étaient sans abri auparavant. Maintenant, ils ont une maison, même si ce n'est pas une maison aux normes, mais ils ont
So
quand même...
they have a house, even if it's not perfect. They have other income generating activities apart from sanitation, and they are also involved in waste recycling, which is good for the environment, and it is really an advantage and a best practice that should be reproduced, that should be repeated, shared with the other communities, other associations. Thank you very much. And to underline what you said, because you are modest, I want to highlight the fact that it's an amplification you're doing, because thanks to your film, you were able to mobilize the city council for the International Toilet Day, and it will be translated in Wolof, so it will be shown in Senegal. So we have to amplify those experiences, and we have to have more funding in women in terms of sanitation, in the sanitation field. So Alex, you were proposing to also give the floor to the participants.
Poser des questions, partager vos expériences. Nous, on sait que dans cette salle, il y a des participants qui ont beaucoup d'expérience dans le secteur de l'assainissement et sur ce champ, dans plein d'endroits. Donc, je ne sais pas techniquement comment on peut activer les micros pour vous permettre de vraiment partager et prendre part à cette discussion.
Sally peut unmute tous ceux qui demandent la parole. Donc oui, si vous voulez participer, n'hésitez pas. C'est l'avantage d'avoir autant de temps pour des discussions. Abhilasha parle du podcast d'Overdue. Oui, effectivement, je l'ai écouté également et je recommande chaleureusement. Sur la question que Nelly posait précédemment sur la documentation, je pense que ce serait intéressant d'avoir aussi le point de vue de l'équipe Overdue sur la question. Janine, Mina, la réalisation de votre film, est-ce que vous avez eu des problèmes ou comment vous avez apporté la question d'éthique d'aller filmer et de prendre des photos de toutes ces femmes qui travaillent dans des circonstances pas forcément très valorisantes, donc de garder leur dignité tout en les documentant leurs pratiques?
En fait, nous avons préparé à l'avance. Donc, on avait demandé...
So we asked the authorization to the municipality, to the commune, to go and see them. And also, we had contacts previously with those, we had preparatory discussions with those people, and also the film crew. The film crew had experience in access to areas to be visited. Though we didn't experience a lot of challenges there, because in Tana, especially in those, how would I say, in these popular areas, the politicians in each electoral campaign, they go in those neighborhoods to be filmed, to talk to them, so they are used to that. But regarding what we did, we give them, we build a trust, and then we to tell them that we were not going to take advantage from, that it was for the common good, and that awareness raising is not, it's not only for the film, for the sake of the film, it's also for us, for the population, to contribute humbly to the improvement of the context. So we didn't encounter challenges or difficulties. No, we didn't have problems to film them, to have access to them, to ask them their views regarding this. But we were careful to ask first for the authorization and to the authorization of the municipality, and also the concerned, the targeted population, and also they dressed really decently to greet us. It wasn't spontaneous. It's because they prepared to greet us, to meet with us.
Merci beaucoup. Je pense que c'est important, cette dimension de la préparation et des relations de travail en amont, pour permettre justement à des travailleuses, à des travailleurs d'être interrogés ou d'être filmés dans des conditions qui leur sont favorables, ou que eux aimeraient mettre en avant, plutôt que par surprise, dans des situations qui peuvent parfois renforcer les stéréotypes. Et je crois que pour étendre à la question d'overdue, on partage vraiment ce qui vient d'être dit par Janine et Mina, et plus largement dans le cadre du forum. Documenter l'assainissement et les travailleurs de l'assainissement, c'est un terrain très glissant, très délicat, avec des questions de honte, de stigma, de stéréotypes, et on peut très rapidement se retrouver à reproduire en fait des stéréotypes qu'on voulait éviter. Et ça nous est arrivé dans le projet Overdue, dans les films. Parfois, quand on filme quelqu'un en train de dire un cliché, donc de dire un stéréotype, comme par exemple les femmes, c'est biologique, elles sont douées pour la propreté, c'est pas toujours évident ensuite de faire un montage pour expliquer que c'est ce stéréotype qu'on veut déconstruire. Et donc, on a pu être accusés nous-mêmes de vouloir garder les femmes à leur place en bas de la pyramide, alors que c'est justement cette pyramide et cette distribution naturalisée des rôles et cette asymétrie de ressources qu'on voulait questionner. Donc, il y a vraiment une difficulté à acquérir et à prendre des photos dans le respect, et ensuite à les monter pour que le message soit bien interprété, ou en tout cas soit interprété dans la direction que nous, on voulait lui donner. Et je pense que, comme le disait Mina, Janine, mais aussi Abhilasha et Wilson, c'est la question ensuite de le réinscrire dans un plaidoyer, donc dans une démarche de soutien, d'amélioration des ressources, d'empowerment, donc d'empuissancement des travailleurs de l'assainissement, qui est important. Et Penda n'est pas là aujourd'hui, mais elle aurait sans doute aussi parlé, et c'était très important dans ses films, de la question des toilettes et des infrastructures insalubres, pour dire, et là je pense
Toilet indecent toilets and infrastructures. So I will. It is impossible to have working conditions that are decent when the infrastructures are inappropriate. And as in terms of manual sludge wasting, it's difficult to talk about it. You can't maintain toilets appropriately if the infrastructure and don't have if the feces or the waste is not separated. So Penda's concern is also to work on infrastructure that they are kept decently. So this is also to make us reflect on infrastructure and technology that can allow sanitation work can be done in better conditions.
Alors, je ne vois pas de main levée. Je ne sais pas si on a des personnes qui souhaiteraient partager à partir de...
Claudie Vouet accepte de nous donner, de partager un peu son expérience en l'absence de Angèle et Penda. Claudie, si vous voulez vous partager avec nous.
Oui, bonjour. Je suis vraiment désolée, on essaye de joindre Angèle et Penda par tous les moyens, mais voilà, ça ne passe pas. La connexion n'est pas de notre côté aujourd'hui. Donc évidemment, je ne peux absolument pas, ni ne veux parler à leur place, parce que c'est elles sur le terrain avec leurs équipes qui ont fait tout ce travail-là, mais peut-être pour juste faire écho à des choses sur lesquelles on a échangé, parce qu'on a évidemment beaucoup échangé.
I talked with them. We spoke a lot about ethics, how to address the topic in the field. What we see clearly, especially considering what, given what Penda and Angel gave to us, and another Astrid, another colleague who also contributed to that work, but in Bukavu, in Congo. So she contributed to that work, that despite the shame, the uneasiness, the unease, we can see in the films that they are ashamed, they put a tissue in front of their mouth, because we are talking about the body, the intimacy, the periods. So those are topics that are difficult to handle, especially in front of a camera, because we don't know who will listen afterwards. But beyond the shame and the unease, and Penda talks about it at the end of the film, that mix of mental load, physical, financial load, there's an amalgamation of load that is huge. So the thing about it, the whole day, see how to make sure that the house is clean, that there's no bad odors, that we will how we will pay the guy who will waste the sludge. So it's a never-ending concern. So we can see it with the students in Côte d'Ivoire, the women, the people in Bukavu. So they're really fed up, they're really frustrated, and we are always between resignation, fatigue, and frustration, because people are always going there. There are a lot of actions that were carried out in the to change the thing, but there's no impacts. Maybe the impact is lacking. So maybe that's the message of those films, and this is in the line of what Abhilasha said in terms of advocacy, is that we are seeing advocacy action that are not coherent, that are not consistent. They are very punctual, and there's work to do on this, the politic work to do, but it should be a networking of all those people who are involved in that issue. So because actually when it's inconsistent, when it's not homogeneous, it doesn't have an impact. So I think there's a lot to do on behalf for the groups, for the association. They have to be supported to get to a level of mobilization that is appropriate. So as we talk about noise, orders, we talk about period, as I said, those are not obvious, easy topics. And we also talk about stereotypes at the most intimate level, but up to the political level. So it's a large, wide spectrum. sorry for Penda's and Angel's absence. They would have said it better than me, but okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
The discussion and the conversation from Dr. Hemangli Kadlak with Sally Kawood. I don't know if you could hear it on the forum. It's pre-recorded. It's very interesting. And one of the conclusions is to create a network of women working in sanitation, to unionize women so that there is indeed this stability that goes beyond the punctual event or the punctual campaign that we can do a few times a year, and to really give them to give themselves and to empower themselves to be represented and to improve the work conditions on the long term. And so I think there's very inspiring ideas and material there to be listened to on the platform of the forum.
Thank you, Nelly. And maybe because we have 10 minutes left and I don't see any new questions emerging, I have one last question for our presenters. What are the next steps for you? Because you are all leading amazing projects and I'm sure they're not over. So what are the next steps of your project? Where are you heading now? Abhilasha, do you want to start?
Yeah. Our major next step, like Claudia was also telling, that is taking this all of this to the government and building advocacy around this. It is very important because none of this is independent of the system, and if it has to be formalized, and if the invisible and the informal people have to be recognized, it cannot happen independent of the government systems. So one of our steps is to sensitize government officers and also hold trainings and consultative workshops on if the possibility of developing a gender action plan or an inclusion action plan at the state level, and taking our learnings from the cities we work in. So we work in the medium-sized city called Trichy, and also two small towns near the city of Coimbatore. We want to take our learnings on gender, working with self-help groups, and also the various like working with the women desludging operators, experiences of women engineers working in the fecal sludge treatment plants, and all these learnings to the state level, as well as build advocacy around recognizing the vulnerabilities of sanitation workers, and in terms of safety, welfare, health, as well as their social protection. We have done some work at the city level, so we are looking to scale these initiatives at the state level. So that is our immediate next steps. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, good luck with everything. Janine, Mina, do you want to share with us what are your next steps?
Oui, en fait, ça nous a vraiment d'abord ouvert la porte de la commune urbaine d'Antananarive, avec qui on a déjà projeté. On a commencé à faire une politique genre pour la commune urbaine même. Donc ça, c'est pas seulement l'assainissement, mais dans les activités de la commune, y compris la budgétisation sensible au genre, etc. Mais par rapport à l'assainissement, nous avons commencé à contacter d'autres partenaires au niveau local. Et pour le moment, après la journée mondiale des toilettes, où on a fait une sensibilisation en plein centre de Tana avec la commune urbaine, nous avons pu contacter le ministère en charge de l'eau et de l'assainissement, le ministère même, qui est donc bien sûr de plus grande envergure que la commune. Et avec le ministère, on a pensé aller plus loin qu'Antananarive seulement. Donc, voir dans d'autres villes de Madagascar, dans d'autres régions, faire des études comparatives et faire des recherches-actions pour trouver quelque chose qui serait plus, disons, plus généralisé, si on peut le dire. Et dans ce cadre, pour le moment, on a pris rendez-vous avec le réseau, avec Rano, je ne sais pas si vous connaissez, et Interaid, qui sont Watered, qui sont présents à Tana et qui travaillent dans ce cadre. Il y a d'autres organismes.
On these matters, there are other international bodies working in that area. And now this is not a fait accompli, but we are actually thinking that drawing on this documentary, we will be able to pull together all the power blocks working on sanitation to spread beyond Antananarivo. Then we could factor in other issues, cultural issues, gender-related issues, as manifested across the regions and across sectors. And depending on the specializations of the various partners, we could mainstream the issues, drawing on their already existing activities, and thus working with them. That would probably help the researchers, students, organizations, associations, etc. And Nina and myself are part of an international gender network, and we have members across various countries of Africa and beyond, in the Francophone world especially. And we could organize workshops to share, discuss, raise awareness, and work together. That is an idea for now, and we will not fail to draw on the various.
Pour tous ces projets. Finally, Nelly, do you want to let us know what's next for the Overdue project?
Yes, thank you very much, Alex. Thanks to Claudie too for giving up the info in the chat. Well, we have many different directions, but as Claudie was mentioning, one of them is also to consolidate this material into maybe a training material that would be available online and that would draw on the example and the research conducted in the different cities by Angèle, Mina, Penda, Astrid, and the other part of the team who are not formally present, but who also contributed to making this possible. So one of our dimensions being academics, is on knowledge production, training material that could be directed to students, but also to municipalities, to public institutions, or the private sector as interested on that question of gender and sanitation. I think it's also, this work also changed a bit our research questions and what we should look at. So we will probably also, following Penda's call, to look also at domestic unpaid sanitation work, to broaden our understanding of what is sanitation work, where are sanitation infrastructures, so to get a more inclusive picture when we interrogate sanitation inequalities in Beira, Freetown, and Mwanza, which are 3 other cities that are currently teams are working on sanitation histories and practices. And then I would also echo the words of Janine and me that we think, and of Claudie, is how to get that feminist network working on sanitation. Part of that network already exists. It was not really interested in sanitation, so getting sanitation there and bringing these energies and institutions together with the one already working on sanitation. So of course, Susanna has an African chapter that we really need to connect to, and so to play our role as allies and supporters of these discussions is probably one of our next steps. And also language facilitation, to really work across the language boundaries, not just English and French, but also Portuguese, Swahili, Wolof. We have a lot of different African languages that we really need to be able to talk into and talk to, so that we can really have a grounded and inclusive network. And that's probably part of our next steps.
Thank you, Nelly. We're arriving to the end of our session. I want to thank all our speakers, even the ones who did not manage to join us, but joined us through the video, everyone who contributed. So Angèle, Janine, Mina, Claudie, Penda, Abhilasha, thank you so much. Thank you to our interpreters, because this is so nice to be able to do these sessions bilingual. And apologies for switching language constantly. I know it's not the most easy for you, but we made it work. Thank you to all our attendees, and we will see you in half an hour for a really interesting keynote speech, mostly in French again. So do join us if you're a French speaker, but there will be translation again. So hopefully we'll see you there.
Thank you.